Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Okay, now we're to invoices, so I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve the invoices as amended in the 6 items in the amount of $212,606.24. And Paul seconds that motion. And I'll give you a couple minutes to look that over. And let Tom or Bob know if there are any questions.
No.
All right.
I can just point out, Dino just joined us.
Yes,
Okay.
good afternoon.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. You'll notice my virtual office background is beginning to fail. I'm disappearing. Kind of like the kid in Back to the Future.
Uh-oh.
All right. All right. We have a motion on the floor to approve the invoices as presented. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Nothing under new business tonight, so I'll turn it over to Tom for director's report.
Okay, just I have 2 items. Just a brief update. We kind of have covered this a little bit already. 155 Greenwood Avenue did come in back to P&Z with the revised application. So I did get planning and zoning some comments. Basically, the comments that I mentioned at our last meeting. We're going to need some easements, I think, for the water main to be installed. They have on-site sewer that's going to connect into our system. And the sewer allocation, I had a question on what they originally proposed was based on a larger footprint of buildings. They've now come in with a little bit reduced. So I just want them to clarify that their flow is either what they were originally proposing or is it now reduced? So we'll need to take formal action, I think, at some point here, probably after they clarify that as far as the sewer allocation. As it stood, they were requesting, I think, 8,965 gallons per day, but I just want them to clarify that.
Tom, could you just, do you know what they reduced it by? The apartments or the restaurant or what?
You know, I don't have specifics. I just commented on the site plan. It's the same front building is going to have an addition, and they were proposing 4 additional buildings running down along kind of the western side of the property towards School Street.
Right, yeah.
And so of those 4, the 2 buildings in the middle, which I think were residential, look to be about the same footprint. So the other 2 buildings, the one directly behind the front building is smaller, and the one closer to School Street is smaller. But at this point, it's you know, with P&Z.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the second item I wanted to discuss was kind of that project kind of triggered a thought. And as I looked a little closer at our distribution system map, for our 20 and 21 water main replacements, I would like PUC to consider a substitution. I'm looking at this point to replace the water main on School Street and eliminate the replacement of the main that was going to be behind the municipal center. Kathy, am I able to take the screen to show the map at this point?
Yeah, you should be.
Okay, so I guess if I click screen 1 and I say share,
Yep.
okay. Can
you
everyone
go.
see the distribution map that I have on here?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So if you follow my cursor here, briefly, you got Greenwood Avenue running east to west, that red line there. So if you come to the right here, this green line, the green lines that designate 12-inch mains. From our wells on Maple Avenue, we have a 12-inch main. This is the intersection with Hickok.
Hey, Tom,
Yes,
can you make that full screen?
yes, I can.
Because I can't I haven't found your cursor yet.
Okay. Can we see the map there? On the right-hand side, I've got is Maple Avenue. They got it labeled as Maple Street, but you know, regardless.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got this green line here is a 12-inch main coming from the wells. At
Okay.
Hickok, we have a 12-inch main that continues down past Worcester through the right-of-way, and it connects with a 12-inch that runs on Durant and Library Place.
Okay,
Okay. Come back to the intersection with Hickok where I'm moving the cursor now.
yep,
And that 12-inch main continues down Maple Ave and down Main Street, and it terminates in the traffic island at the intersection of School Street and Main Street. What I am proposing is to replace this main on School Street, which is being shown here as a 6-inch AC main back from 1960. So we're looking at a 60-year-old main, 6 inches. I'd like to replace that with a 12-inch main and have that 12-inch feed then, which comes from the wells, tie all the way across School Street into Library Place. That's the piece I'd like to add. The piece I'd like to replace and not include is the piece behind the Municipal Center, which was basically going to close this loop between Worcester and Durant. And you can see along Worcester, we have a 6-inch main and an 8-inch main. And basically why I'm proposing to replace School Street, I think it's just going to be a stronger feed to our downtown area. The proposed project on 155 Greenwood is proposing a connection from Greenwood through their property to School Street. And it really doesn't make any sense to tie that into that old 6-inch. If we can have a 12-inch there at the ready, that would be a better feed for that whole downtown stretch there by Greenwood Avenue.
Hey, Tom,
Yes,
there's that big box culvert in School Street that you're gonna have to go under.
yes. So last week I dug out some mapping. If you follow my cursor again here, that culvert runs down School Street about halfway, and then it runs at an angle to
Across the front lawn.
to the end of near the post office. It's kind of across, actually it's right
Right.
near this hydrant.
Yeah,
So my proposal is to come down School Street, get onto the lawn area just off the sidewalk along School Street. And then as we approach the box culvert, stay to the right of it and then tie it into Library Place so that
Oh,
we
all
don't
right.
ever have to cross it.
oh, okay, all right, okay.
And we have enough room to do that. It looks, and basically that, a lot of that main, about 500 feet of that main will be going across lawn instead of asphalt.
Okay, just one point, you got a sewer line that comes out of the municipal center that runs along the front of the municipal center. I'm not 100% sure where it ties in, but it's probably on the right-hand side of that box culvert.
Okay,
So you'll have to get that location.
yeah, we'll
And
be able to
and
do
that
that.
that sewer main is deep there too.
All right, well then that's helpful. We can probably go right over the
Center.
top.
Yeah, you can check there's manholes in front of the municipal center. You can check the depth of the main that
Okay.
picks up the municipal center.
Does that exit the building somewhere near the middle of the building, would you say, Rich?
It runs the entire length of the building from Library Place to the gymnasium doors.
Okay. All right, well, we'll get that located like we have to get all the utilities located.
Yeah.
everywhere.
All right, but and the old septic tank, I could point to you where the old septic tank is still in the ground over there too.
All right, I'll
We filled that up with concrete though.
okay. When you have a minute one of these days, you can
Yeah,
give me a
okay.
quick tour.
Yeah, okay. But
Um,
no, that's good. So you don't have to go under that box culvert.
Correct. Yeah, that was my one main concern over there, and the mapping shows we have plenty of room.
Okay.
So with kind of reconsidering that, I'd like the commission to consider just making that substitution on our list of streets that we're going to do on the 2021 water mains.
Well, I'll make that motion that we substitute the running a 12-inch main down the front of the municipal center rather than the rear of the municipal center.
I'll second. Okay, any further discussion on that issue?
Just a quick question here. I've noticed off of Durant, there is a branch that goes towards, I guess, towards Worcester. Does that feed into Eaton back there or not?
No, Paul, that is the piece I was going to replace.
Oh,
That is-
okay.
That's
Gotcha.
directly behind the municipal center.
Okay, got you. Okay, understand it then.
Were you going to connect it all the way across to Worcester?
The original plan of mine was to run that main from Durant in back behind the building to Worcester. So it would be,
Okay.
it would be replacing this 1955 8-inch cast iron,
Right.
and this 1961 6-inch
Okay.
cast iron.
Okay.
And Tom, one other question. Well, if you're on the municipal side of the culvert with the water main, and they're going to tap it in for the new buildings, they still have to go under the culvert, won't they?
They were gonna have to do that anyway, Rich. Their plan
Okay.
was to tie into the 6-inch. So they,
Yeah,
they,
but
they- right, they were gonna be
6-inch was
crossing
in
that
the
culvert
road
anyway.
side though, wasn't it?
Sorry?
All right, I'll talk to you about it later, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions about that?
No,
Well, it makes a lot of sense.
All right. All right, then we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed? That carries. Tom, before we move on, I gather this is an older map that you found, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, just as a side note, off of Hickok Avenue, the upper right-hand corner, the blue tank is not there anymore.
Got it. No, I get it.
Anything else on director's report?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, well, then we're going to move to old business and consideration of the Bergstrom well, the engineering report.
Yeah, just briefly, I won't go into a whole lot. I think we've seen the report. We've had some discussion. We're at the point now of what I'd like us to consider is accepting the report and forwarding it on to the Connecticut State Health Department for approval. We've been looking at the new groundwater supply for a few years now, at least. And we did get a presentation from Marius. He summarized some of this work was earmarked in our capital improvement plan. We've looked at the surface supplies and what their deficiencies are and the additional cost to upgrade them. We've broken the cost down to put them all apples to apples on a cost per million gallon basis. Bergstrom is still the more economical and feasible alternative. The green sand filtration has been around for years and is very effective. The last thing that we did do since the last meeting, we had a site visit to the Meriden, Connecticut facility. Their facility has been online since 1983. It's roughly the same size as far as flow as our system. It's about 1.5 million gallons per day. They had much higher manganese levels than we have, and it's been very effective at reducing the manganese. One of the questions I asked the operator towards the end of the day was their amount of time that the operators spend over there. And they visit it once a day. On average, he says it's about an hour a day. Days they're going to backwash, and I think they backwash twice a week. They're there a little bit longer, and the other days they're there less. But they've reported no problems, and I think that setup would be somewhat similar to ours in terms of it having three tanks. The one big difference between their system and what we're doing, they have a clear well, and their clear well storage was underneath their building, and they had distribution booster pumps, which not proposing to utilize a clear well. So, but generally speaking, it was very similar, in size as to what we're going to need.
Yeah, well, there was a couple other differences. One is they don't have to worry about recycling their water at all, because they have a POTW 100 yards away.
Yeah, in fact, they don't recycle, they just discharge all of it. So what we're looking to do is recycle what we can and then just discharge to the sewer, the component that we can't.
Where did, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at that site visit. Where did you say they discharge your water?
Actually, their wastewater treatment plant is on the same grounds, if you will. The
Well, I
sewer
hope they
plant
don't
is
get the
right
water
there with the well and with that facility, and across the street actually is an airport. I'm not sure which airport it was. It was a pretty congested, facility. I would be a little concerned with the water quality with all of that going on, but their sewage plant was right there.
Was there a well system right there also, Tom?
Yeah, they had two wells. One well was on the same side of the street as the sewer plant, and I think the second well was across the street.
Yeah,
But they were basically right there in proximity.
Okay.
no. Tom, I never fully understood their whole thing with the swelling of the bed and disposal. Do you have a clearer understanding of that?
Yeah, basically, the media, which is the green sand, is you keep it chlorinated, and it's basically gonna extract the manganese from the raw water. So the way they termed it is the media is gonna grow. It's gonna like add additional volume. I mean, he made it sound like, that was a major issue. I don't think they really had to dispose of any excess material in the 37 years, that they've been in service. The one other thing that happened in more recent years, something called green sand. I guess the filter media now is a little bit different. And they used to oxidize it with potassium permanganate. So they were adding quite a bit more manganese from the oxidation chemical they were using. And now that we can use chlorine to oxidize it, it doesn't add the same, volume of manganese that the potassium. If you remember, Dino, they had that large potassium permanganate feeder in that corner.
Yeah.
That they're no longer using. So,
I know they said they had shoveled some out, but they had no idea where it went.
yeah, I don't think you're talking a lot of volume over the years that they've had it in service, but
No, but it's something we need to be aware of.
exactly. And we would work with the manufacturer on that in terms of, and I think you could probably, while it's out of service, do a visual inspection and see what kind of level your media is, so you have an idea of how it's changing.
Yeah. The other concern that was noted was the high moisture content of the building itself, the humidity level, the sweating of the tanks, and the damage that was being occurred on the exterior of the vessels. We will need to consider the ventilation is a pretty critical part of the building.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely part of any treatment plant design now. Not sure what they originally had in there back in '83, but it may not have been adequate. But HVAC is going to definitely be a component to the building, no doubt.
Now, did Marius give us a operating cost for the HVAC system?
His
it runs
report
24
had
hours a
operating
day?
costs, it had electrical consumption. I don't know that it was broken down specifically to HVAC. I don't know. It's
Well, we can get-
probably based on the flow rate and what the size of the building would be. It's probably, a generic amount of electricity that they calculated.
Yeah. But just to fill everyone else in, a couple of the takeaways I had on it was, one, we want to make sure that when it comes to the equipment like valves and whatnot, that we make sure we spec the right valves, because a lot of those are valves that are prone to leakage, butterfly valves, that sort of thing. And, and everything was probably what, like 6-inch, 8-inch?
That's okay, it's not a problem.
So, there's a good size to it. Their system seemed to run very well. They seemed very comfortable with it. It's very straightforward.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to look at components. That'll be one thing. Now, again, they have a 37-year-old facility. So they did mention a couple of issues with valves. And I also believe they had the high pressure system. And that may have been more of an issue with the leaking valves. Depending on whether you're using the standard, like I think it's 125 PSI or 150 PSI, or the high pressure 200 PSI system. And I think they had the higher pressure system, Dino, if I remember.
They did have a high pressure system.
But one of the things for sure we will do is talk to other plants that are online with the Hungerford and Terry system, that have been installed more recently. And we'll get feedback from them in terms of some of those components. I know my plant down in Norwalk, when it was originally built, the everything had air operated valves, and there were some problems with the valves that we had. They were leaking air. So when you leak too much air, that definitely gave you some problems. And we ended up having to swap out valves about 5 or 6 years, after it was in service. And, through talking with the vendor, what they originally had installed, they had now basically phased them out and came up with another vendor. So I think as we go forward, we're definitely going to stay in touch with other plants that are using that Hungerford and Terry system and find out their thoughts on some of those components, especially valves.
Hey, Tom, I got a question. I don't know if Maris mentioned this, but is there any odor or taste to this process when the water goes out to the system?
No, there was no discussion of that. I don't believe that's an issue at all, Rich.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Yep.
Thank you.
Let me just ask the question, do we need a special permit if we're going to dump the manganese into the sewer system? I can't see it for iron, but the manganese maybe.
We will need probably and I'm not sure what the exact permit's called. There's like a miscellaneous discharge permit through DEEP, and really kind of DEEP is now working their way to having the local plants, be the ones that collect those permits and review them. So yeah, we'll need to be in touch with Danbury when the time comes. But I mean, you're going to have so much, dilution from what we're going to discharge directly from that plant with all of the other flow that we're going to be basically discharging. We're going to be adding 27,000 gallons a day to a flow of probably over 1.3 million gallons a day. So by the time, it makes its way to our Paul Street station and then Danbury, you're not gonna notice any manganese.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yep. But they're usually permitted on your flow rate. So if we're going to be discharging on order of 27,000 gallons a day from a facility, I think we're going to need a specific permit for that.
All right, any other questions about the Bergstrom well?
No.
If not, I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we accept the proposal and forward to Department of Public Health for their review and comments and eligibility.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right. Seconded by Paul. Any further discussion? And hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And PUC capital projects.
Okay, two projects to talk about briefly. The 2019 water mains. It's been a little slow going. I think the contractor had an issue with some of his crew with COVID related, not directly exposed, but basically being in contact with someone. So they had to delay a little bit. They've been back on the job since last week. They're finishing up Oakland Heights. I would expect tomorrow should be the last day of getting all the services done. And looks like they're going to be on schedule with the weather looks good this week to prep and pave by the end of the week. We will have some money left that we didn't spend. I know, Rich, you'll be interested to figure out exactly how far can we go. I won't really have that number, but I think we're going to be able to extend along Highview closer to Bonnet Drive than we originally had proposed. So I think there's going to be a little bit of work, whether or not they can continue doing that into December, January, or we get them back in the spring to finish that up. That looks like where we're going to be at.
Yeah, okay.
The other project, again, hit another snag. And again, I think it's probably somewhat related to COVID. One kind of critical piece is a check valve that's installed in the altitude valve vault. And it works in conjunction with the altitude valve to let water into and out of the tank. That check valve we've been waiting for it. I think it was ordered, believe it or not, in August. Until recently, the last couple of weeks, it was still nowhere to be found. And I think at this point, the vendor has pursued the contractor has pursued a second vendor to get their hands on an alternate check valve. So I don't have a date as to when we're going to actually be able to fill that tank. Hoping it's going to be soon. I'm hoping it's going to be December. I mean, it's already the 7th. But we've got to get the check valve in place and installed before we can start to fill. Obviously, at this point now, any landscaping is going to happen in the spring. There'll be, once the tank is filled and able to be put in service, the instrumentation piece of it is going to get tested. That should be able to be done within a matter of a day or two. Then the contractor will be able to finish backfilling. Then I think it's, spring for landscaping, and potentially they'll be able to get the fencing in now as opposed to spring, but that'll remain to be seen. So the key item, filling the tank, is dependent on the check valve. Hopefully that's going to be here soon, but I don't have a date.
Hey, Tom, is the water charged to the gate valves in front of the altitude valve?
I believe so. We've tested it, we've chlorinated it, pressure tested it, and we should be charged up to those valves, yes.
Right. All right. Well, it's just, if those valves don't, or if that valve doesn't show up soon, they need to protect that dormant water so it doesn't freeze.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, good point, Rich. And that's all I had for PUC
Okay.
capital.
Quick question, Tom. What
Yes.
about the Eureka generator?
Generator, I haven't heard from the vendor, so I meant to call him today, so I had something for you, Paul. He was gonna call me when it came, so I think he's still waiting on it.
Okay.
Okay, moving along to utility supervisor's report. Kelly? Kelly, oh, his line froze.
Pick up.
Uh-oh.
Oh, his line might have dropped.
It's his moment to shine.
All right, let's see if he can log back in the next minute or so. Well, I'm going to assume that his internet dropped.
Oh.
Yep, he disappeared. Well, Tom, do you know of anything, any big issues going on in the field?
You know, he didn't give me his update. I do know some of the work we were going to be doing at Stony Hill 1, replacing the rails on both pumps, and it was the control panel. That is scheduled for tomorrow. So I think, here he is. I think we're set up
There he
for
is.
tomorrow, Wednesday. Kel, you with us? You're muted.
Kelly, you're muted.
Kelly, you're muted.
He looks frozen again.
No, yeah, he must have a,
There he is.
All right, here we go. Can you hear me now? All right.
there
Can you
you
hear
go.
me now, Tom?
Yep.
All
Yeah.
right, so Paul Street Generator, I met with Kingsley last week. They're gonna figure out the sizing we need for Paul Street and also do a price. I'm gonna bring in HO Pen and I'll probably bring in Cummings Direct to get some kind of a breakdown. It really does seem like we can go with a much smaller generator, which would be a savings. But I'm still waiting for numbers to come back. The only other big thing I've got going on tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, we're going to start breaking down Stony Hill number 1, which is the one right at the firehouse, the sewer station. We're going to put new rails, a new control panel, hoping we can keep up with it because we have to eliminate any flow into that wet well so they can get in there and do the work they need to. We're all set. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I guarantee you tonight will be a sleepless night for me. But again, we'll be starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be doing one pump one day, then do the second pump the second day, and also in the middle of it, they'll be doing the new control panel. So that'll take about, I think that station was done in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, but I'm pretty sure early 90s. And this will be all upgraded. As I told you during the summer, trying to get parts for the control panel in there is basically impossible. So we're definitely moving forward on this one station. And hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be up and running. And as for COVID safety, social distancing, 1 man to a truck, and we're limiting our crews to basically being by themselves as much as possible. And we've had no issues. And that's about all I have.
All right, great.
Sorry for the technical glitch.
That happens.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey, Rich, while I'm thinking of it, we have been working on that bladder tank on the line up through Long Meadow. We've got a contractor here, right? Preferred Pumps. He's got a tank that we should be able to use that'll work out. It's just trying to get all the paperwork done for the credit so that we can purchase this tank. But again, like I say, even if we have to take this tank and just do it during the day before a cold spell, just to see what kind of an effect it's going to have on our system. And then from that point, then we'll figure out how we're permanently going to mount it.
Okay.
But all the dimensions and everything seem like just what we want. We think we can put it into a 2-inch meter pit as we spoke of before, and we can take advantage of that blow off right up in the area of the tank site. So we're working at that, and also the hydrants are scheduled for next week. I think it's the 14th, 15th, and 16th or something like that, but they are scheduled to get some of those out of the way.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, any other questions for Kelly?
No.
And if not, then we have concluded our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved
Second.
by Paul, second by Rich. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Have
Stay
a
safe.
Yep, have a good night. Everybody stay safe.